I let myself indulge in the glimpse of a broad chest, arms corded with muscle, and long, strong legs before I walked right into that pool. He wasn't built like Isaac, whose body had very much still been in that gangly place between boy and man. No, Tamlin's glorious body was honed by centuries of fighting and brutality. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Jennifer.
And we are Moms into Literary Freedom. Okay, so that was one of my favorite quotes from A Court of Thorns and Roses, right?
Yes.
I just call it ACOTAR, by Sarah J. Maas, which is the book that we are covering today. But before we get into that, we just wanted to remind you that you can become a subscriber or a MILF ally. And the link to that is in the show notes. It's also in our bio and our social media. But with MILF allyship, I guess, you can get access to special things like interviews. We do the Trending Tea, where we have like much shorter episodes about trending topics. And what else? Oh,
some video
yes.
of our previous podcasts.
When we
episodes.
do remember to record video, we have some video up there as well.
And if we get subscribers, we can upgrade our video
recording equipment,
because right now it's not the best.
We got some really crappy Amazon microphones. But yeah, I mean, recording these things takes time, and we really love doing it. But for just $4 a month,
you'd be helping us out a lot.
Mm-hmm. Or, whatever you feel. I think there's an option that you can choose however much you want, even $1 a month, whatever. But we love doing this, and the more support we get, the better we can be at it.
Yes. All right, let's get back into the book now. What was the quote talking about?
In that quote, they were actually swimming in a pool of starlight.
Who wouldn't want to do that,
right? So, I read it and I just sort of laughed out loud because, it's so cheesy. But at the same time, I would have loved to be swimming in that pool of starlight with Tamlin and his honed muscles from centuries. We're talking hundreds of years of brutality. How emo? How much more emo can you really get?
Yeah, but that's fantasy for you, right?
Right. Well, this is my first real, experience with, what did you call it? Phantom-mance?
I call it romantasy.
Romantasy. Okay. Phantom-mance. I guess you could count Twilight as romantasy, yes. But I read that when I was 18, just because everyone else was reading it, and that was the last time I read a romantasy.
See, that's where it all started for me, was with Twilight.
Yeah. I just, everyone was reading it. I was yeah, I'll read it. And it was good. I had no complaints about it. And here we are.
Well, yeah, so that's up my alley. Romantasy is that's my thing. Mm-hmm. So I read A Court of Thorns and Roses back in, what did I say, 2001?
Okay.
2002?
2 years ago.
Oh my God, 2001. 2000.
I knew what you were saying. I'm 2 years ago was 2001. Here we are.
We mentioned Twilight. Now my whole age, years, everything's messed up.
Yeah, I guess that was about then. No, Twilight was 2007, but go on.
Was it?
Yeah, because I was in college.
No.
I was in college. Yeah.
No.
Well, maybe the fourth book was when I was in college. I don't know how long it took her to get those books out. Maybe the first one came out in 2001 and the last one came out in 2007, because there were 4 of them. So yeah, oftentimes it takes a long time to get four novels out. Just this is the first of 5 books, right?
You know what? You might be right. I might be thinking of my daughter's being born, and you're right. She was born in 2001. I was not reading Twilight then.
Well, Stephanie Meyer hammered out 4 books pretty quickly then, or maybe she had them written and released them at the same time. I don't know, but similar deal. Sarah J. Maas has 5 of these for this series.
Yes,
but then she has a bunch of other series,
right? And counting, because there's still more.
Mm-hmm. She's making bank.
Yeah.
Good for her.
She's very popular.
Yeah.
Very popular, which is why so many kids want to read these books.
Yeah, this is on Book Talk, right?
Yes.
Which is
Book Talk,
a thing.
Insta Talk, or...
I don't know.
No, wait. Insta Talk is not a thing. Book Talk.
Book Talk?
And Instabook. No.
Instabook? I don't know. You're supposed to know these things.
I don't know. I'm getting it all mixed up. But she's popular on social media. Very popular. And
it's an easy read. You call these, is that a summer beach read, but it could be a summer beach read. You know, like they're easy to read. It's better than just like scrolling on your phone. Like you are getting smarter when you read, whether you think this is smut or not, which I don't think this is smut.
No, I don't think so either.
The books that you get in the Winn-Dixie book aisle, which I don't think they have them anymore, but I used to work at Winn-Dixie, and sometimes I would just like escape to the book aisle,
right?
And I'd be like, let's read some smut. That's smut because the writing isn't even good, right? And I'm not saying, you know, Sarah J. Maas is like Ernest Hemingway or whatever, but like, you know, it's good. I think it's better than some of the smut that I've read in the Winn-Dixie book aisle.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Definitely. And it's not a small book either. We're talking about, what, like 500 pages?
For the first one, it was around 400 or 500 maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
So a teenager, you know,
I'd be very
wanting
proud
to read a 400-page book, I'd be ecstatic.
Yeah. Let's talk about, honestly, I know everyone's different. And I don't want to like give personal information, but like as a teacher and a mom, right? If your kid doesn't know what sex is by the time they're going into middle school, in my opinion, I think you're doing it wrong.
Right.
Like they should know that sex is something that two people do, one, to have babies, but two, because they're in love.
Right.
Know?
And I know that we're saying that this book belongs in middle school.
No.
We're just talking about like
true. Good point.
Middle schoolers already should know about sex.
Right.
And they do.
But let's just say
are unfortunately already having sex.
Right. So sad. But let's just say like you have a middle schooler. Not you, because I know you do. I'm talking to the audience here. And they start rebelling and they start doing things they're not supposed to. And guess what? Guess what these things that they're doing is? They're reading banned books. Like, how mad are you going to be that, like you have let's just say a 12-year-old, and she's hiding in the closet reading ACOTAR. Like, oh my God.
My ACOTAR that I have on my bookshelf.
Right. What is stopping, like, us who have just shelves and shelves of banned books? Like, what's stopping our tweens, right, from just, like, sneaking off and, like, no, you might get a new perspective on something or learn about something.
Right.
Like, how dare you?
I think I would pretend to be upset.
Right.
Just so that she'll continue to read.
Right. Now, there's that's a good point. Yeah. Like, oh, yeah, we're gonna talk later, but I'm really busy, so I'm gonna turn my head and you can do what you want.
Or just pretend I didn't see it, you know?
But really, let's just compare it to Sold by Patricia McCormick, which we covered in an earlier episode. I haven't told my child, like, you're going to be grounded if you read this book, or because she knows she's not an idiot. Like, she's smart. And I think a lot of that has to do with the conversations that we have with her and she listens to, and she understands the things that are happening, right? She doesn't understand everything because she's still young, and I don't want her to understand everything because, you know, the older you get, the more able you are to kind of like bear that weight. And kids shouldn't have to bear that weight if they don't have to, right? But you know, there's certain things that, like, you just got to know about because other kids are bearing that weight. So it's like, hey, if that kid can bear that weight unjustly, then my kid should know about it.
Right.
But anyway, the point I was getting at is, if she were to, like, steal Sold off of the bookshelf, right, and go read it, she knows she wouldn't be grounded. She wouldn't lose, like, her iPad or her cell phone or whatever. But she knows that, like, she would be learning about something that she might not be ready to deal with.
Right.
And I had that conversation with her because she came out and she was like, when can I read, you know, this book? And I was like, well, I don't think you can read it now because I don't think you're ready to comprehend that information.
And I think also with Sold, nothing is explicitly said.
That's true.
So I think they wouldn't understand what is happening.
Well, it was just so sad, honestly. And it wasn't even, I guess that's not a great example for, like, from a sexually explicit angle, because you're right, it's not sexually explicit. But I cried the whole time I read it. It was just constant tears. And I had to read it away from them so they weren't like, what is wrong with you?
Right.
You know? But, like, it wasn't a long book. It took me, like, 2 days to read. But it was just the first thing that came to my head because it's such a true, you know, real life example. Because then her next question would be like, does this really happen? And, and that's just like something that she's not ready for. But here we are in ACOTAR, which is not real, completely fake. It is the opposite of Sold. It is where you go to escape reality. Why? What's wrong with that?
No, there's nothing wrong with it. And I'll tell you, do you know how I discovered Sarah J. Maas. Maas?
I think it's Maas. I've heard librarians, media specialists say Maas. So
okay.
I don't know.
So we'll
I'm assuming they know what they're doing.
So I discovered it from my now, how old is she? Shoot, 19 year old. When she was, I think, 16 or 17. She's not a reader. She does not like to read.
But this got her.
She wanted to read one of her other series, Throne of Glass, which I'm dying to read and haven't read it yet.
My cousin, I think, started that one and she really likes it.
Yeah, it's a tandem read.
Oh.
So you have to read like several books at a time. I don't know. I have the...
Bringing reading to the next level.
Yes. I was like, oh, okay. So that's why I haven't read it, because I keep putting it off because I have other books that I'm reading. And I'm like, I have to, like carve out time for it. But anyways, I'm going off topic.
But it got turned her into a reader.
Well, not yet. But
it made her read a book.
It got her interested in books.
Oh, she didn't read the book yet.
She started to. I got her. So I have the audio and everything for it because, I know the audio helps them finish books.
Yeah.
And that's how I get through a lot of my books too.
Yeah.
So I'll have to ask her if she finished it. But she was interested in a book.
Yeah. No, and that's, if we can start this earlier, even like, we don't think that this should be in middle school, but I think it should be in high school.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, if high schoolers are wanting to read this book, and kids nowadays don't want to read books.
Yeah. And it's like, you start high school when you're like 14 years old. You're still like very malleable, which the opposite side of this argument would say, well, that's a reason to not have this book.
Right.
But like, what are they going to do? Turn themselves into a fairy? Or, that
is the fear that a lot of these people have.
Like furry, but instead of furry, it's fairy.
Right.
Well, whatever. I don't think that if you read this book, it's going to make you want to like get fake fairy wings and like make your ears pointy. But it might.
I'd want to. I know.
Right, but would you put on a pair of wings and like go to school?
No.
Some kids might, but hey, to each their own. I don't have a problem with that. I had kids when I was a teacher show up with tails, and it was
because that was a thing for a while.
Tails and like those little headband cat ears,
which did not make them furries.
So innocent, like they're just kids, like being weird. Like kids are naturally weird. Like let them be weird. These kids, I'm telling you, the furries, quote furries, the ones with the tails, which weren't real furries, not real furries. Okay, they listened to me. They took their notes, took their tests, got goodish grades, like no complaints from me.
Right. They were generally good kids.
Right. So, I don't really see the harm that this book could do. It does allude to sexual intercourse, but like I said, I think in middle school you need to know what sexual intercourse is. I think in high school, like, reading about sexual intercourse is so much better than watching porn.
Absolutely.
And we need to start taking away the stigma of masturbation and because it is like actually harmful to tell a kid that masturbation is bad and that it's a sin and blah blah blah, because then it gives them no way of like regulating their hormones. And kids, tweens, right, from early puberty to their fucking mid-20s, okay, they just have these sex hormones are just raging, right? And, reading books like this and like healthy masturbation habits, we're going to have a sex therapist on this show.
Yes.
We are going to, because she knows so much more than I do. I know nothing about this other than masturbation is not bad and a kitten doesn't die every time you do it.
Oh my God, I can't believe they still say that.
Yeah. Or like, I don't know.
And it's not good to like build this guilt in something that we naturally do.
It's very normal, but here's the thing: it's much healthier to do it to a book that maybe elicits these feelings than it is, pornography. I'm not saying that porn is bad, but it is for kids because it definitely like creates this like false image in their head.
Yeah,
like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to look like. This is what men are supposed to do to me. Like sex isn't something that I do with someone. It's something that's done to me, because that's what porn is. Like, and also it's like, if you have like a young person who's like navigating pornographic websites, like they're not going to know which ones are quote healthy, which I don't even fucking know which ones are healthy, right? But as an adult, like I think you have those tools
Yeah.
to like differentiate between reality and not reality. But as a child, or as I shouldn't say child, but as a teenager, you don't understand the difference.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe for me, like these books also, obviously I'm thinking of it as an adult reading it. Maybe like a teenager might obviously see it differently, but it doesn't really elicit like those sort of feelings.
No.
It's more of a like, oh my God, I
Well,
want to fall in love. And
You've read some smuttier books than this, and so have I.
That's why I'm not sure if that's where I'm getting that from.
I would say though, and this isn't me playing devil's advocate, or this isn't saying like, you know, these books are going to make everyone masturbate, but let's just say if they did, it's not a big deal, you know?
Right.
Because like let's just say you're 14 and you're reading this book and it's like eliciting all these sexual feelings because it's the first time you've read about these sexual feelings, it might be the first time that you explore masturbation because there's no adult in your life talked to you about masturbation or gave you a book about masturbation because there aren't any good books about masturbation.
Right.
And there should be. But even if this book did promote masturbation is healthy. That's all I'm going to say on the topic. I think we should stop talking about masturbation.
All right, well, moving on. So let's talk about a few of the things that they've challenged, right? Because if you look again at how they word their challenges or, you know, how they describe the book.
The things they have a problem with.
Sure, if you just read it out of context, you're like, whoa, yeah, there's a lot of spicy stuff going on. So, like, one of them says, and this is page 172. This is the first thing they point out. So, a child had to read 171 pages to get to something remotely spicy.
And when we say child, too, like, you're a child until you're 18.
Right.
So, like, we mean, like, a 13, 14-year-old. Because that's
and even, like 15, 16, right?
Yeah.
13, 14, I don't think they're too young. I think it depends on the child, right?
Yeah.
And like, yeah, sure, that's where each parent has to decide.
Yeah.
So like,
but even if like a parent didn't decide,
and
they just like stole it and like read it secretly, like you're lucky if that's all your kid is doing.
Right.
Like you should be counting your, what is the phrase? Lucky stars.
Yes, I think so, right?
Yeah. I mean.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal at all. Your kid's reading.
And I mean, they have to read 171 pages to get to this. It's not like, you know, there's no pictures, there's no anything.
Yeah, no pictures.
So it says,
make those with your mind.
Yeah. Oh, no, imagination. You can't
right?
have that.
Yeah, well, that's where the masturbation comes in.
Right. That's why porn is bad and books are better.
Exactly.
His lips were smooth against my skin. His breath warm, and my knees buckled as he lifted my other hand to his mouth and kissed it too. Kissed it carefully, in a way that made heat begin pounding in my core between my legs.
Ooh.
That's the quote.
It's the between my legs that they were pissed at.
Because nothing happened there.
Because you're not supposed to know that you have a vagina until you're married, apparently. So we kind of jumped a lot in the book, but this is the point where Tamlin had already taken Feyre is how you say it, right?
Yeah.
Back to his manor because she like broke the evils or the fairy code by killing someone.
Right.
And she hated him for such a long time because like she was brainwashed into thinking that humans are supposed to hate fairies, but eventually she falls for him because, like I said, his muscles have been honed for centuries.
How could you not fall for that?
Right. He took her to a fucking pool of starlight.
Yeah, and he brought her to a castle.
Yeah, eventually you're going to fall for it.
Right.
No matter how much you're supposed to hate fairies. But anyway, that's the point in the book we're at.
Right.
So come to find out that that whole scene that Jennifer just read was because she had like pricked her finger on a rose, which I think is why it's called A Court of Thorn and Roses.
Right.
I guess. I mean, that's the only time that roses are mentioned, but okay, whatever. But he was like sucking the blood off of her finger?
Yeah. You know, like tending to her wound.
In a very sexy way.
Right.
Which...
And if you like someone, you know, obviously anytime you like someone and they touch your hand or anything like that, it
will
causes
elicit
reactions.
A biological response that is completely natural.
But that was it. And then it moves on. Mm-hmm. That little blip happens. And then they move on and keep talking and go on about their business. There's nothing beyond that quote. But if you just read that little excerpt it sounds like,
Smutty.
tantalizing.
Yeah. I mean, there are other tantalizing excerpts. I can't say that word either. And we're not saying like a 10th grade English teacher should teach this book. Like, this isn't like something that should be, can you imagine that teacher would never want to do that? That would be like my worst nightmare. Like, okay, let's have some 15-year-old boys read this out loud. Like, that would be torture for both the student and the teacher. But like, it should be in a library because, and you've made this point several times on this podcast, which is like, you have to fill a school library with books that are enticing to read.
Yes.
Otherwise, kids aren't going to read. And if we raise a generation of non-readers, then society will suffer. Because, reading builds critical thinking skills, it increases your vocabulary, and so many other things.
Yeah. I mean, and they keep complaining about test scores and reading scores are going down. Well, duh. No one's reading. So that's what we need to be encouraging.
Exactly.
And how do we encourage that? Give them books they want to read.
And this doesn't even have any gay characters in it, which...
No.
Which is kind of one of the criticisms from the other side of Sarah J. Maas is that she doesn't have a lot of diverse characters in terms of sexuality, I think. I've read anyway that some people are kind of like I guess they wish that she had maybe wrote in a few more gay characters or something.
Maybe, yeah. I know in this book there isn't.
Okay.
But as you progress in the series, there are.
She alludes to, okay. They're not main characters, but at least, they're there.
Right.
But my point of that is like, you'd think Moms for Liberty would be like, yeah, heterosexual white people, like, doing the deed. Like, let's make sure that, our kids read this so that they don't turn gay on accident. Like, I don't know.
And now that you mention white people, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a criticism she gets too. Because if you read how she describes a lot of the characters...
Fair skin, blue eyes.
But not all of them. But the ones that...
That are dark?
That are darker skin, it's never clear. Like, are they just, like, tanned? Or are they, a minority?
Right, right.
So,
I see
have, like, called her out for that.
I see that criticism, but also, like, when you're writing a book where, like, one of the characters' skin is made out of, like, bark...
Right.
It's kind of hard to, like, differentiate between, like, black and white or brown or whatever. But, because one of the characters is named Alice, and it's Feyre's, like... handmaid, I guess. I don't know. And Feyre discovers that her skin is made out of tree bark.
Yes.
She's like a weird tree fairy. But that was after the, quote, glamour had been lifted. Because that's how Tamlin got her to the manor, is he, like, put this spell on her so that she couldn't see, like, the reality of, like, the land and all the weird creatures that roamed it.
Right.
And then after a while, when he, like, thought he could trust that she wouldn't try to run away again, he like lifted the glamour, and then she was like, wow, look at all these ugly fairy people.
They're not all beautiful.
Right, yeah. Which I kind of appreciated, but I don't know.
And I think too, like for me as a reader, when they don't specifically spell out who the character is,
you get to build it yourself.
Yes. Yeah. So I can make the character whatever I want it to be.
And that's why people get mad when the movies come out. They're like, that is not at all how I imagined it.
So sometimes, like, yes, I do want it spelled out for me, and I look up fan art to see, like, what other people, like, visualized.
I did not visualize Tamlin with long hair. If she said he had long hair, that went completely over my head. Maybe, like, she may have described it multiple times, but in my head, that man has short hair.
Well, I've seen him with long hair and then, like, shoulder-length hair.
Yeah.
Fairies, like, I think stories with fairies
usually
a lot of the
have
time.
long hair.
Although...
Rhys doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah. So let's talk about Rhys. At some point, we're not doing a great job of covering this book. Just go read it.
Yeah, I think we're not trying to spoil it either.
Yeah.
It's a good book.
Yeah.
Read it, but...
Oh, I'll spoil it. Jennifer won't. But, like, I mean, if I accidentally spoil something, that's on you for listening to this. But, I mean, I feel like... I don't know. I feel like there's certain things that, like, we kind of have to talk about.
Okay.
Jennifer's like, no. But no, Rhys at some point...
Tread carefully.
Right, okay.
What are you going to say?
Well, this is another thing, because I just finished the book, so I have all these questions. But when Rhys and, which I'm just going to call him Rhys, because Rhys and is such a weird name.
It's Fairyland, and they all have weird names.
Yeah, it's just hard. Rhys and. I don't know. When he first shows up, they're scared shitless. Like, Tamlin is scared. He, like, grovels, which is, like, really surprising. I'm like... And, like, later we find out because he's, like, helping this evil queen, right? But but yeah, Tamlin like grovels and is like super scared, and it makes you think that he's like this really scary fairy, right? I forgot where I was going with this. Oh, but he doesn't have short hair, is I think the point there.
Long hair.
Sorry, he doesn't have long hair. Thank you. He has short hair. Yeah, at least in the fan art, right?
In the fan art, and they might describe it as not being long.
Yeah, the writing is really good though. She does not spend too much time, clearly, because we don't know. We can't just like remember who has long hair and who has short hair. But she doesn't spend too much time describing things, which other authors that I've read have, and it can just get really boring.
Yes.
She's not boring.
No.
Like she's even like some people are like, oh, the first half of this book is really boring, but I didn't find it boring at all.
They call that, I've learned recently, world building.
World building.
For a long time, I thought it was word building.
Oh,
like I'm such a dumbass.
You skipped that L.
Skip the L.
Yeah.
And then I realized they're saying world building when they like in fantasy worlds like build the whole world and like, go into a lot of detail, history, and yeah, I get lost in that.
I didn't get lost in it.
Right. Well, she doesn't do a lot of it.
Oh, okay.
It's like the other ones that like they go into a lot of detail beforehand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I caught like 25% of that.
Yeah, it's just, and that's the thing. I mean, maybe we're becoming dumber as a society. I don't know. But, like, I can't handle that either. And I'm sure there's, like, other people that, like, maybe have better focusing strategies than I do. But, like, I'll find that I'll read, like, 3 pages and I will have comprehended nothing.
Right.
Like, what?
And I don't hate that it's there. I'll read through it. But I just know that I'm not retaining.
Yeah. But in this, she does build, the world in that there's fairyland and there's human land. And Feyre comes from this like family, and she's got 2 sisters, which I think are big parts of the series.
Yes.
She ends up having to leave her sisters in the beginning, but then she goes back to see her sisters. But I really liked the sister aspects of it.
Yeah. And she's the youngest, but she's also the reason that they're surviving.
Yeah, because she's like, oh, that's the other part. She's a very skilled huntress.
Yes.
And which is what got her here in the first place. And what helps her ultimately, I'll try not to do any spoilers, but ultimately helped her survive, right? Because there's a book 2. Okay?
Right.
It helped her get to book 2. Like, I'm not going to say anything else, I guess.
No spoilers.
But because she's a huntress, right? It helped her,
yeah,
get what she needed to get done.
Yeah. She learns a lot about herself, too. And, it's just a fun story to read. There are some lessons in there, especially as you move on to the second book. Yeah.
So here's the thing. When I was reading it, I couldn't help but fall in love with Tamlin, right? And that's not a spoiler.
Valid.
Like, it's a love story between Tamlin and Feyre, right? As the book looks. No, it's because we're going to read some more spicy quotes here in a minute. But I kept, like, in the back of my mind, I was just like, is this anti-feminist? Because, like, and I don't really give a shit. Like, if you're reading a book, like Twilight, for example, and you've got, like, the damsel in distress and, like, the man, like, whatever, who cares? It's not necessarily anti-feminist, right?
Right, I don't think so.
It's just, like, a love story. Because also Feyre is a very strong woman in this. Like, she's portrayed as a strong woman who can take care of herself. But I think the problem was more just, like, and this kind of, I think, develops into, I haven't read the second book, but I think this develops more into a problem, maybe in the second book. But, like, it's like, supporting the idea of falling in love with someone who's maybe, like, toxic, I guess.
Right. But in the first book, Tamlin doesn't come off as toxic.
Right.
It's kind of like a Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, it is like Beauty and the Beast, yeah. In the beginning, well, he tricks her into going into his own land. Right. Because he needs to, fulfill something, prophecy, a code, I don't know, right? Yeah, so it's like, it's trickery. There's some trickery. Right. But, the more you read, but then it's like, there's all these excuses. And so you end up finding yourself making excuses for, like, the quote, toxic masculinity.
Because he's so hot.
Right. And you're like, and so here we are, full circle. It's like, oh, but he's so hot, But I'm not saying that this is an anti-feminist book, but there are people out there that have given reviews and said, don't read this, it's anti-feminist. And it's like, fine, if you don't want to read it, fine. But I don't personally, as someone who considers himself a feminist, don't think it's anti-feminist.
Yeah, I didn't read it and get that vibe. But when I go into reading like fantasy books, I know that there's always going to be some sort of message, hidden in there.
What is the message of this one?
Good question.
Oh, it's love.
I mean, yeah, love.
It's love. That's like the underlying theme.
Hello, love.
It's got to be love. That's a hint. Not a spoiler. Not a spoiler. It's just a hint. So yeah, it's love. Yeah. And because like if you go back to her family situation, like she just wanted love from her dad and her sisters, and she never felt like she got it. And the way that she showed them love was keeping them alive and her to fulfill her promise to her dying mother, which was to keep her sisters safe.
It also, I think, has understanding other people's point of views, because she always thought of Nesta, her sister, as like just being like a hateful bitch.
Yeah, she portrays Nesta as like, and not the author, but Feyre, because the whole book is written from her perspective, which I found kind of annoying because I was like sick of like her, like what you just said. I was sick of her like thinking Nesta was this huge bitch. I was like, well, Nesta's probably going through some shit too. Right.
So. Yeah, and towards the end, she figures that out. Nesta is still a little bit of a bitch, but she has. It's just her personality. Yeah,
she's not a cold-hearted and evil like the evil queen in this. Because yes, there's an evil queen. That might be a little bit of a spoiler, but from the beginning that there's like some sort of evil force. Yeah. And that's what the whole book is about, essentially. Yeah. So, but let's read some more spiciness.
All right, let's see. What's another good one?
They're all good.
They are. Let's see. His lips brushed mine, testing, soft and warm. He pulled back a little. He was still staring at me, and I stared right back as he kissed me again, harder, but nothing like the way he'd kissed my neck. He withdrew more fully this time and watched me. "That's it?" I demanded, and he laughed and kissed me fiercely. My hands went around his neck, pulling him closer, crushing myself against him. His hands roved my back, playing in my hair, grasping my waist as if he couldn't touch enough of me at once. And they wrote one. I'm like, that's wrong.
And, there's a lot of quotes very similar. And we'll find the one at the end where they, like, finally do the deed.
In that one, they have it, highlighted as, like, this bad thing.
That's not bad at all.
They were having a kiss.
That's so lovely.
Right. This is when they were watching the sun's rise, I believe.
After they like swim in the.
No, this was after like one of the fairy summer solstice or something.
Oh, okay. And that's when she met Reese for the first time, actually.
Yes.
Because he saves her from these like three.
Not
evil
that
fairies.
one. I think it was the other one.
Oh, it was another one. Okay.
That one she had to go hide in her room.
They have a lot of parties. In this land.
So it's like romantic. They were watching the sun rise or set. And there was like these tiny fairies, making like glitter show. Yeah,
those are called wisps, will-o-wisps, which is not something that Maas made up. It's like an actual mythical. Yes, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, read the one where they finally, because this whole book is leading up to like when they finally get to profess their love to each other. And it is truly a love story. And I think it's pretty well written. I don't think it's smutty at all. I do think that, there's some spiciness to it, but not that much.
So here, this isn't that scene, but I think this one's kind of funny. Rhysand can read minds.
Oh, yeah. And that was funny.
When he's when he sees Feyre with Tamlin, he teases Tamlin about what Feyre is thinking.
Oh, yeah.
And he tells her, "She has the most delicious thoughts about you, Tamlin," he said. "She's wondered about the feeling of your fingers on her thighs, between them too." He chuckled. Even as he said my most private thoughts, even as I burned with outrage and shame, I trembled at the grip still on my mind. Rhysand turned to the High Lord. "I'm curious. Why does she wonder if it would feel good to have you bite her breast the way you bit her neck?" It's funny.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't know. I think it's really good character development. Yes. I don't see it as like the nefarious, I don't know. I don't see it the way that Moms for Liberty is seeing this right now, like in like this
because
dirty.
They didn't read it. Yeah, if you're reading
it's
it
just
in
showing
context,
how evil Rhysand is,
right?
At that moment, and
someone spilling your dark secrets in front of other people, and the guy you're having those feelings about is embarrassing. There was nothing sexual in that.
Exactly.
Dumb.
Well, since we're talking about funny quotes, here's another one.
I know where you're going with this.
So this is when she she first meets, what was that really scary thing called? The black...
The cereal?
No, that one's not scary.
Oh,
like the black entity that's like Amarantha's little...
the adder.
Adder. Attor.
Yeah.
Attor. And like the description of it was like a weird shadowy spider bat in my mind.
It's like a huge...
I don't know.
like human bat thing.
Yeah. Like a scary...
More bat than human.
Okay. Scary bat creature. And so she's like, I don't know, in its presence. And so she says, this is how the book goes. Human, it said, and its voice was at once one and many, old and young, beautiful and grotesque. My bowels turned watery.
That's a funny way to say, like, basically...
I'm going to shit my pants.
Shit my pants, yeah.
I was so scared I almost shit my pants. Like, that wasn't the only time that Maas used that phrase. Like, she used it at least 3 times that I can remember. And I'm on this Reddit thread. A user says she uses this phrase in the Thorn of Glass. What's the glass?
Throne of Glass.
Throne
That's
of
the other
Glass
series.
She uses this in the Throne of Glass series too. Somebody get Sarah J. Maas some Imodium. she's projecting.
That's funny.
Because I mean, I'm not this way. I know some people who are.
Yeah.
You don't have to answer if it makes you uncomfortable. But when people get nervous, like whether it's like they're flying in a plane for the first time or they're like driving in a car and someone's like a really bad driver, or I don't know,
they get
something
shits.
like that doesn't happen. But like they'll get to their destination, they'll be like, I have to go to the bathroom, and I'm just like, I noticed that about this one particular person, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, I know someone like that too.
Yeah,
I'm not like that.
It's just anxiety.
Yeah, I'm
any
not
anxious situation.
Yeah.
You shit your pants.
So I know someone like that. I won't say who.
Sarah J. Maas is like that. It's Sarah J. Maas. That's who I'm talking about. Oh,
That's
man.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, just read this book because of that line right there. I mean...
Do you want to read the whole stimulating sex scene?
Yeah, because, like, you get up to the point, right? You're
2 pages. It's that
2
one.
pages. I'll read some of it. You're... What's the word? Anticipating it. It's building up. Oh, my gosh, this is so long. Page 245. It's like the whole page.
I think so, yeah.
So you're anticipating it up until this moment. And it is 1 page, right? Where she describes them doing the deed.
And you said 259.
245.
245. Mm-hmm. So, again, you read 240 pages.
245 pages, yeah. And, I mean, I can't read the whole thing on here because I feel like that's just too much. But I'll just read you the spiciest part, in my opinion, I guess. Let's see. He traced the arc of my hip bones, lingering at the edge of my undergarments. She says undergarments, so right there's a turnoff right there. That's going to stop you. My nightgown had become hitched around my waist, but I didn't care. I hooked my bare legs around his, running my feet down the hard muscles of his calves. He breathed my name onto my chest, one of my hands exploring the plane of my torso, rising up to the slope of my breast. I trembled, anticipating the feel of his hand there, and his mouth found mine, again as his fingers stopped just below. His kissing was slower, this time, gentler. The fingertips of his other hand slipped beneath the waist of my undergarment, and I sucked in a breath. And then, there's more of that. Let's see. Give me everything, I breathed. He lunged, a beast freed of its tether. We were a tangle of limbs and teeth, which is kind of weird, but that's okay.
He's a beast, he's got a lot of teeth.
Yeah, that's true. She does talk about his sharp teeth a lot. I tore at his clothes until they were on the floor, then tore at his skin until I marked him down his back, his arms. His claws were out. Oh, that's right, he has claws. And, like, whenever he gets real excited, they come out.
Yeah, or upset.
Angry, upset, excited. I was moaning his name when he sheathed himself inside me in a powerful, slow thrust that had me splintering around him. We moved together, unending and wild and burning. And when there's so many typos on this, how do they not know how to copy and paste? There's someone that just like types this.
Right, like copy and paste, my friend.
They can't copy and paste it. They're like, okay, read it. So just picture you got 2 moms for liberty.
You and me.
One of I'm reading it and Jennifer's typing. But whoever's typing it keeps messing up. And when I went over the edge the next time, he roared and went with me. She had 2 orgasms. Ooh. So lucky her. But
so see, fantasy.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, so yeah, that's the spiciest part of
That's
this book.
right. That's
And
the big one.
Other than the word like unsheathed and lunged, there was no like, there's no, what's the word, like, there's a word for it, like prurient.
There's no like smutty words. Or
Why can't I think of
prurient
these?
is a good word.
There's other words. Like, I think explicit is the word that they like to use. This, to me, is not explicit.
No.
I mean, it talks about sex, but again, back to the argument here. Do you want your kid learning about sex on YouTube? Or, I don't know, can you get sex on YouTube?
I think so. Probably. I'd be surprised if you can't.
Jen and I get our porn from books. I mean, that's very clear. So
now
we
you
don't
can
know.
get it on X.
Twitter?
Yes, he's allowing it. Wow. Which I think is so funny considering,
Like, wait, hold on. I mean, that's so accessible.
Yeah. And hello, Elon Musk or whatever his name is.
That's his name.
They love him.
Yeah.
When I say they, I'm talking about people who support book bans.
Yeah. I mean, conservatives tend to like the billionaires. Yeah, that's true. I wonder how Moms for Liberty would think about. I mean, their whole argument is like, I don't know. Like, do they think that cell phones should be banned from children?
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, it would be stupid.
Probably because they cannot tell their child no.
Yeah.
So they want to ban it from everyone. I think, to me, that is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
They don't want to tell their child, no, you can't do this.
Or they don't have control over their child.
Yes.
Okay. Because they don't have a relationship with their child.
Right.
Because their child hates them because they're annoying.
Pretty much. I think that's what it stems down to.
Like, just have a relationship with your kid. Like, meet them on common ground. Like, don't get mad at them for stupid shit. And, then they'll be open and honest with you about things. Yeah. I agree with you. It really does come down to parenting strategies.
Because if it was really about parental control, something I've said a million times, they just wouldn't let their own kid read it. Mm-hmm. You're not allowed to read this book. Mm-hmm. End of story.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, like, let's go back to the conversation that I had with my kid about if you steal this book and go read it behind my back, like, you're not... I wanted her to know that reading a book is not a crime. Right. So if you go steal this book and read it, even though I told you I didn't want you to, you're not going to be punished by me. You'll be punished in some other way because you're not ready for this material. Right. And so and she's not going to read it. I would bet all the money in my bank account, which is not a lot, but in my husband's bank account maybe, that she's not going to read that book because she trusts me because we have that relationship. Right. And of course, I want her to read it when she's ready, but yeah.
And my kids, there's a lot of books, right, that I read, and I listen to a lot of books. So, hello, my kids are always with me 99% of the time. Yeah. So sometimes I'm listening in the car or something, and, I kind of gauge when it's going to be a spicy scene or something, and then obviously turn it off. Mm-hmm. But when it's not, and it's just like an interesting story, like let's say A Court of Thorns, A Court of Thorns and Roses,
You said, Thrones. I get it.
My kids will listen and they're interested, right? Like, it's interesting. Mm-hmm. So with Fourth Wing, I had this. My son was like, dragons, hello. Yeah. They're cool.
Wait, Fourth Wing is for kids, right?
No. Oh. No. That's, again, it's like a YA novel, I think. Okay. It's similar to Court of Thrones. Thorns and Roses. ACOTAR, yeah. It's similar to ACOTAR in the sense, same genre and sort of stuff. But he was like really into it. Like, oh, what happened next? Or why did that happen? Or what happened here? It got to the point where I reread the book with him. Nice. He loved the book. Yeah. He ate it. This is, again, he's 10. Mm-hmm. All I did was I marked the chapters that were like...
That he could read? Or
we read it together.
Oh, you read it together.
So I was with him the whole time. Uh-huh. And so I knew when something was coming up, and he didn't want to read that stuff either.
So he's like,
he's grossed out by that stuff. Yeah. Okay. So he's like, oh, if they would even kiss, he'd be like, oh, skip that part.
That is so funny. Yeah.
But he liked
the story.
The story. Yeah. Without,
That's so funny.
But to me, the story wouldn't be the same without those chapters. Yeah. So.
Yeah. That is so interesting. Yeah. And one day, as all children get older, like they are going to want to read all the chapters. But yeah, and that just goes to show the relationship that you have. That honestly, all of these so many problems can be fixed, like with just good parenting.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking like, like you got to have a lot of money and like, sometimes, I understand that it's really hard for parents who work 60 hours a week trying to keep food on the table and all that stuff. But it doesn't mean that like you can't still have conversations with your kids.
Right.
Maybe it's just in the middle of the night when you get home.
Yeah.
Make the time. Carve out the time to have those conversations.
30
Don't
minutes,
be afraid. Yeah. Yeah.
A good conversation before bed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, every time for me that's the kind of the easiest time is like right before bed. And that's funny. It's when they will just like drop a huge bomb.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'm so tired. And you're dropping this now? Like that's strategic. You just don't want to go to bed.
Right.
Like I'm not going to walk out of here and be like, "Oh, we'll talk about it tomorrow" because of how big it is. I'm like, ugh. Anyway. So yeah, I think that wraps up this book. I can't talk about it anymore or I'll spoil it.
Yeah, this is one that we really don't want to spoil for you guys.
I mean, I like it better this way. Maybe we should just stop spoiling all the books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just going over.
Easier for us.
I think so too. And
it only
easier for the listener.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To try and keep up with.
Let us know what you think.
Yeah. Yeah, let us know. I mean, it only took us 15 months to get to this point. So. But yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to...
Well, we could talk about all the places it's been challenged.
Ooh, a lot. I'm looking at the list right here, and I'm not sure I want her to read all of it.
Yeah, this is just for 22-23 school year. So who knows how many other places it's been challenged.
Like 20 different places, at least.
In Florida, it has been challenged and removed. Clay County, Escambia County, Martin County, Volusia County. In Missouri,
It wasn't even in Flagler County, which is our county.
It might have been. It just they haven't gotten to it yet.
I would guess the media specialists in this county just took it out.
It's possible.
Yeah.
That has been happening.
And I don't blame them for it. But anyway.
Which now they need to bring it back because the law's changed.
That's true. Yeah. So it's been a while since we had an update on that. But like, the shortened version of it is that books can be in the library.
Yep.
For just like the student's purpose to read it, right?
Yeah.
As long as it's not, like we said, it would never be like taught in any sort of classroom, right? But does that apply to even like books like this?
Yes.
So all the books that have been banned can come back.
That part, that's where it gets tricky, right? Because it wasn't what they did. What we call the don't say gay bill.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
They were sued over that.
So any books that feature gay characters.
And it was clarified that it didn't apply
to library
books.
Okay.
Yes.
So
a lot of challenges were based on that, and a lot of removals, like the schools were going through and like removing books based on that law.
But I feel like where it's still fuzzy for me is like if we use All Boys Aren't Blue, which is a book, our very first episode, if we cover that, or if we use that as an example, like that's a book that is clearly, it's a memoir of a gay person.
Right.
But it's got, some scenes, right?
And I don't think those were that explicit either.
They were about SA, right?
Right.
So it wasn't arousing.
No, it wasn't like pornography at all.
Right. And so, so the question is like, do those get put back?
In my opinion, they should. The problem is those went through a formal challenge process. Mm-hmm. And if the people that voted to remove it, then they didn't remove it because of that law. They removed it based on whatever they consider. Because they don't.
You know what?
They don't understand the law.
We're going to get a sex therapist on here to talk about things that I don't really understand. But we should also get someone who understands like that stuff as like a guest speaker on here.
Yeah.
To talk about that.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Because I understand it. I'm just not good at explaining it.
Oh, I don't understand it.
Well, that part I understand. Like whether it's an explicit, they call it pornography. It's not pornography.
Yeah, because of the Miller test.
The Miller test.
Yeah. So the Miller test is, if it's these three things, has literary value, if it doesn't have literary value, if it is prurient, which means arousing.
Right.
And I don't remember the third one. Those are the only two I remember. But if the book is all three of those things, then it has to leave.
Right.
But if it has literary value, which is what we keep arguing, then it should stay. Under that logic, all the books should stay.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Except for the ones at Winn-Dixie, in the Winn-Dixie aisle. Those are the ones.
But the thing is, they look at like, oh, look, it's prurient, what they consider prurient, and they miss the part where it says and, not or, and. So it has to meet all three, and they're like, no, it meets one out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the issue.
So maybe we'll get someone on here to talk about that knows a little bit more than
Let me list off the rest of the places it's been banned.
Okay.
Missouri, Nixa Public School. North Carolina, Pender County. North Dakota, in Williston Basin School District, number 7. In Oregon, at the Canby Public School District. Pennsylvania, Pencrest School District. South Carolina, Beaufort County. In Texas, it was banned in Conroe Independent School District, Frisco Independent School District, Keller Independent School District. In Utah, it was banned in Alpine School District, Davis School District, Granite School District, Nebo School District, and Washington County School District. And then in Wisconsin, it was banned from School District of Somerset. That's a long list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
this is just the first one. The second one was...
Yes.
Which we will cover eventually, right?
Yeah. Next.
Oh, I haven't even started. No. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe we can take our time covering these since I'm a slow reader and I want to have read them.
Yeah.
We might do, while I'm catching up, maybe you can do one for Pride Month.
Okay.
One that maybe you've already read or something. Or maybe...
We haven't done Last Night at the Telegraph, right?
Yeah. And I actually read half of that, so maybe I can finish that. We'll see. We'll let you know. But yeah. Anything else?
So with that,
yeah.
Stop banning books.
Ban the bigots.
This episode has been engineered and mixed by your hosts, Jennifer Mendoza and Courtney Green.
Thanks for listening, and be sure to follow us at MILF for Books. That's MILF, the number 4, books, on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it.
And don't forget to help the show by rating us wherever you get your podcasts.